طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome you all in our 11th session in our series studying Nahu, Basic Arabic Grammar. And our textbook is Al-Muqaddimah Al-Aajuroomiyah. And our commentary textbook, Sharh Al-Aajuroomiyah, is At-Tuhfat-us-Saniyyah, that we use as our basis for studying this topic. Mind you, this book, At-Tuhfat-us-Saniyyah, and also the original Matan, these are books that are really designed for speakers of Arabic language. So as we progress in the book, inshallah, we will have to cater for our needs as speakers of non-Arabic language, speakers of other languages. So we will pause wherever we need to pause. We will break things down in more digestible portions. And we'll take it one step at a time as we go. Before we begin today's session, inshallah, we will begin by studying or revising in the form of question and answer, inshallah, some of the basics of what we studied so far. Question number one. How far back shall I go? What is Nahu? Nahu is a field of knowledge. What does it study? Yes, the ending of words. It studies the ending of words in the context of sentences to see what impact one word has on another. And the impacting word is called what? We have impacted word and impacting word, al-amil. So the impacting word, the one that causes the change of the end of one word, the one causing the change is called the amil, and the one on which the change occurs is called al-ma'mul. Okay, so this is the one is influencing, one is a factor, and one is being influenced. So this is what we study in Nahu. Right? That's very good. When we look at a sentence, we'll find that sentences consist of words. Every sentence consists of words. What are the possible types of words within a sentence? Yes, Bassam? How many are they? 3. Ismun, fi'lun, harfun. Yes, we are familiar with this one. Very good, mashallah. When it comes to sentences themselves, there are 2 main types of sentences. What are they? Jumla ismiya and jumla fi'liya. We call jumla ismiya a nominal sentence, meaning a sentence that begins with a noun. And a jumla fi'liya is a verbal sentence, a sentence that begins with fi'l. Why is it important to, first and foremost, before analyzing any sentence grammatically, to determine the type of the sentence? Is it jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? This is the first step, we said, right? Why is this important? Why should this be the first step? To know the role of the words in the sentence. Yeah, to have an idea as to what you should be expecting. If it's jumla fi'liya, then I'll be expecting fi'l. I'll be expecting fa'il, and then I'll be expecting, I know what fi'l is capable of producing. You know, it produces a position of rafa' for a fa'il, a noun that will play the role of the subject, the fa'il, another position possibly of nasb for the maf'ul bihi, right? And so on and so forth. If we're dealing with a jumla ismiya, then also it helps me set my mind as to what should I expect in that sentence. The jumla ismiya, the nominal sentence, begins with a noun, right? That's very good, mashallah. We spoke about the amil and ma'mul. And then we spoke about, if we go back to the diagram we had at some point in our classes that shows the 3 categories of asma within a sentence. When we studied the possible types of words within a sentence, we said the three categories are ismun, وفعل, وحرف. طيب. We said we tackled the harf first. The harf, and we said harf is always mabni. Remember the word mabni and mu'rab? Who can remind us what mu'rab means? When a word is of type mu'rab or mu'rabat, what does it mean? Someone?
Word that which the ending changes.
Okay, we have a change at the end of the word. Very good. That's mu'rab.
That's also apparent.
Huh?
That's also apparent.
It could be apparent. It could be non-apparent. We'll come to it. Yeah. The mabni, on the other hand, is what, Sam? Fix. Yeah. And we call them, so we can call them mu'rab, as in non-fixed type of words, whereby they do change at the end of the word, and fixed ones, whereby the haraka on the last letter of the word is fixed. It doesn't change, and therefore we can't show the influence of the previous word on it. Right? We also call the word, we call them, and I mean we are at liberty to use whatever English words we want to use, isn't it? As long as we convey the meaning. We call mu'rab words responsive, because they respond to the influence of the word that is amil on it. And we call the mabni word non-responsive, meaning they don't show any change when they are influenced by the previous word. That's amazing, mashallah. And then we, going back to that main diagram we had at the beginning, we had words at the top, the possible type of words within a sentence. We said that there are three main categories: ism on the right hand, in the middle we had fi'l, and then on the left we had harf. Let me actually share this with you. Do you remember this diagram? We covered this diagram at some point. We have on the right we have ism, in the middle we had fi'l, and then on the left we had harf. And we said harf, every word that is of type harf is a word that is never responsive. Never responsive. It's mabni. All huruf are mabniya. And then we have ism on the right hand. Predominantly, a word of type ism is responsive, is mu'rab. We can say 80% of the time they are mu'rabat. 10, 15, 20% of the time we will have words that are non-responsive. Asma'un mabniya. So we have asma'un mu'raba, isms that are responsive, and asma'un mabniya, isms, nouns that are non-responsive. And then in the middle we have fi'l, and we said the fi'l is of three main categories: madi, mudari', and amr. Madi is past tense. In the middle we have mudari', which means present and continuous, present / continuous tense. And we have amr on the left here, amr, and that is an instructive verb, commanding verb, whereby an instruction or a request is made, and it's futuristic, is for the future, not for the present time. And when we say future, means after the spoken words are uttered, then the fi'l is expected, the request is expected to be executed after the spoken words. So these are the three possible types of fi'l: madi, past tense; mudari', present / continuous, present, continuous, or simple tense. And then we have amr, instructive verb, which is future. And we said madi, the category, a fi'l that is of category madi is always what? Mabni. A word that is of category amr is always mabni. When we say mabni, means they have a fixed ending, right? It's a fixed ending. They're not responsive. We will come to each one of them and we'll study what will be the haraka at each one of them and how do we deal with them. And then we have mudari'. Mudari' is similar to ism. Similar in the sense that in the vast majority of cases, it's mu'rab, right? in some of the cases, it's mabni, right? So now when we study this chapter of i'rab, we said we will have to look at ism and fi'l mudari'. That's the main topics, the main two topics that we need to study. We'll still study madi, fi'l madi, and fi'l amr, but our most concern is ism, studying the two branches, the mu'rab branch and the mabni branch. And we study the mudari'. And if you remember mudari', why is it called mudari'? And what does the word mudari' mean? Mudari' means?
Similar to this.
Yes, that which resembles. Mudari' means that which resembles. And it's called fi'lun mudari', means the fi'l that resembles ism. In what way does it resemble ism? In the fact that it is mu'rab in the most part, right? So in our study of i'rab, we need to be looking at ism. And mainly we will begin by looking at the mu'rab words. There are categories which are not shown in this diagram. They are not shown. And then we will know that all these categories are mu'rab words, meaning they respond to influences. They respond to the influence of the previous word. But why are they categories? Why they are a number of categories? We said there are 10, remember? Why are they 10 categories? Because the way they reflect the change. How do they respond? All of them respond to the influence of the previous word, but they respond in different ways. So each category responds in a different way. Very good. Barakallahu fiik, Wissam. And then when it comes to mabni words, also we will tackle them because ism is the main word, the main type of word within sentences. They will have to be either mu'rab or mabni, and then we will go through these categories as well. And you remember that how many categories do we have under mabni?
10.
Also 10, we said that. So we will cover these 10 of the mu'rabat, 10 of the mabniyat. And then when it comes to mudari', the mu'rab parts of it, how many are they? 5 cases. We will cover them. And then the mabni parts are how many? 2. Right? We'll cover them. So right now we are going through the mu'rab categories. They are 10. Let me show you this other diagram. So these are 10. Can you see? Al-mu'rabatu min al-asma. The mu'rab words within isms. Right? How many are they? Can you see that they are 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, until 10. There are 10 categories, right? And then we have al-mabniyat min al-asma. Isms that are mabni, non-responsive. How many are they? As well, 10. Right? Yeah, 10 until 10 here. We will go through them. And then when it comes to fi'l mudari', how many cases do we have? 5 cases, right? Of mu'rab. Fi'l mudari' masbuk mu'rab. I did not include the 2 categories of ism fi'l mudari' that's mabni. I should include that, inshallah. So that will be homework for me. Al-fi'l al-mudari' al-mabni. I will complete this, inshallah, for the next class. So we have how many cases here?
6.
No, for the fi'l mudari' that is mabni.
The mabni.
الفعل المضارع الذي اتصل بنون التوكيد. Then we have الفعل المضارع. الفعل المضارع الذي اتصل آخره بالسين. آخره بنون النسوة. طيب. وكاتبة الفعل والمضارع المبني. So that's our, and we have the 2 cases here. So far you are with me, right? You are following our map of study where we are and where we. So at the top there, at the top here, we said we are starting with this 10 categories. Huh? In the previous class, we covered al-mufrad, al-ism al-mufrad, and the i'rab of it, and we covered al-ism al-muthanna and the i'rab of it. Everyone remembers? طيب, who can remind us now, before we begin on the third category, who can remind us how do we, كيف يعرب الاسم المفرد؟ يعرب بالحركات. يعرب means the حركة that show to show the influence of the previous word that is reflected on حركات that are on the last letter. Very good. So ضمة for رفع, فتحة for نصب, كسرة for جر. The second category المثنى, الاسم المثنى. طيب, so the first one we just called it al-mufrad for short, but we can give it the proper name and call al-ism al-mufrad. طيب, the second one is al-muthanna, or the full name is al-ism al-muthanna, the ism that is made into two or dual. طيب, كيف نعرب المثنى؟ كيف يعرب المثنى؟ أو ما هو إعراب المثنى؟ الألف والياء. So المثنى, the إعراب of المثنى is with letters, not with حروف, with letters. And which letters represent what state of إعراب؟ من ثلاث بسام. الألف للرفع, الياء للنصب, الياء حرف الياء للنصب والجر يعني. So we can حرف الياء للنصب والجر. Yeah? And we are limited to 3 إعرابs because اسم has only 3 possible إعرابs, right? 3 out of 4. The 4 states of إعراب are الرفع, النصب, والجر, والجزم. So the first 3 are for اسم, and then when it comes to فعل مضارع, we have so فعل مضارع, how many states of إعراب? 3. Which are they? الرفع والنصب والجزم. Very good, mashallah. So mashallah, so we are now on top of things. Anything here ambiguous, unclear from the previous class? Very good. And then we covered something before we progress into the third category in our mu'rab asma. I remind you quickly of what we covered in the previous class as well, in terms of how do we do i'rab? How do we do grammatical analysis for asma, and how for words that are mu'raba, whether it is ism or fi'l mudari', and how do we do i'rab, grammatical analysis, for words that are mabni, right? And that's, what are the mabni words? الأسماء المبنية, الفعل الماضي, فعل الأمر, والحروف, والفعل المضارع الذي اتصل به نون التوكيد ونون النسوة. فعل المضارع in the 2 cases that we spoke about earlier. So we have 2 possibilities. A word may be either mu'rab or words. When we grammatically analyze them, what components do we have to state in our i'rab? I mentioned to you these components, these 5 components. I hope you managed to go through them in your revision at home. Please do that, because it's going to help you come to the following class with everything in your head, inshallah. So first thing we will mention, when we're dealing with a word that is mu'rab, we will speak about the position or the role of the word in a sentence. Meaning, now we have a sentence. This sentence could be فعلية, جملة فعلية, verbal sentence, or could be جملة اسمية, a nominal sentence. So we know what to expect in a verbal sentence, and we know what to expect in a nominal sentence. In a verbal sentence, we expect فعل and فاعل, at least the 2 basic components, فعل and فاعل, the verb and the subject. And then we could possibly have also other complementary components, like مفعول به, etc., etc. And then we can also, when it comes to جملة اسمية, a nominal sentence, the basic component is مبتدأ and خبر. طيب. We can have extras. These extras, they are optional. They are complementary components. So we will set our expectations. But anyway, any words within a sentence has to play a role. Words within a sentence have to play a role. And so first thing, when we deal with the جملة فعلية, we have to state the role. Is it مبتدأ? Is it فعل? Is it فاعل? Is it مفعول به? Is it خبر? So that's what we're going to state right at the beginning. طيب. Second thing is, what state of إعراب is it in? مرفوعة أو منصوبة أو مجرورة. I should also add أو مجزومة, because these categories here are for which includes what? Which includes the فعل مضارع. So it could be any of the four states of إعراب. If we're dealing with ism, then we have three known ones, and if we're dealing with فعل, we have different set of threes. So we said the إعراب, is it مرفوع, منصوب, مجرور, or مجزوم. العامل, we said العامل is what caused the state of إعراب. So we just stated in component number 2, we just stated the state of إعراب. Now we need to state what caused the state of إعراب, meaning the previous word. Number 4, علامة الإعراب, how is this word reflecting that state of إعراب, right? And then if it's ظاهرة, if it's an apparent إعراب, meaning it's audible, it's sounded, طيب, we just say the علامة الإعراب ظاهرة. If it's مقدرة, it's understood, it's implicit, the implicit إعراب, then we will say, okay, علامة الإعراب is there, but it's unpronounceable. طيب, and then we have to state سبب منع ظهورها. Why was it not possible to be pronounced? Right? So these are the 5 steps for words that are معرب. Right? And then I gave you example to this. جاء محمد, which is محمد is what? First of all, that's the role it plays. Look, جاء محمد. That's our sentence. جاء محمد. So we have فعل. So that's جملة فعلية. The فعل created a position of رفع, and Muhammad, the word Muhammad, the ism Muhammad sat on that position. So Muhammadun, when we do the Arab, we take it to the side, we put a colon in front of it, and we say Muhammadun. That's the role. What role is it playing? فاعل. Now the second thing is, what state of Arab is it on? مرفوع, state of رفع. And then we'll say بالفعل, meaning acknowledging that it is the فعل that led to that state of إعراب. Right? And we did say that this will be redundant, inshallah, at a later time, because calling it فاعل makes فعل obvious. So we will not be saying the same thing twice. But for now, we will keep it. And now the fourth component, علامة رفعه. What's the علامة of رفع? ضمة. علامة رفعه الضمة الضمة. Now in this case, it's الظاهرة. So there will be only 4 components. If this one was الضمة المقدرة, then we'll have a 5th component stating why is it مقدرة, why is it understood. Are you with me so far? طيب. And when it comes, this is an example I gave you for a word that is مقدرة, inshallah, we'll cover soon بإذن الله. طيب. إعراب الكلمات المبنية. Grammatically analyzing مبني words. طيب. Again, مبني words has to be in the analysis, grammatical analysis for مبني words, we'll have 5 components as well. First thing is نوع الكلمة. Who can tell us what is نوع الكلمة? The category in which that word, that ism belongs to. Let me remind you. See this list here? It belongs to one of those. So the first thing you'll have to say is which of these 10 possible categories or subcategories does it belong to. So if it's ضمير, we're going to be begin by calling it ضمير. If it's اسم إشارة, we call it اسم إشارة. If it's اسم موصول, we call it اسم موصول. If it's اسم استفهام, and so on and so forth. If it's منادى, we call it. So that's the first نوع الكلمة, the category it belongs to. And then after that, you just have to say that it is مبنية. Simple as. And then why do we say it's مبنية? This is as an introduction to stating that I can't state the حركة, the علامة الإعراب, the sign of إعراب, because this word is a fixed word. So number 3, you will mention the حركة at the end of it, the fixed حركة. Why do we say this? This is like saying the حركة at the end of this word is not reflecting any set of إعراب. It's a fixed حركة. So when we have فتحة, we should not be confused to think that this is منصوب. If we have ضمة, we should not be confused to thinking that this is مرفوع word. Yeah. And if we have كسرة, we should not be confused in thinking that this is مجرور word. Yeah. لا مبني. No, you specify, because مبني could be مبني على السكون, مبني على الفتح, مبني على الضم, مبني على الكسر. So it's a specification. You go and specify further. So مبني is just you're saying it's يعني fixed word, it doesn't change. And then حركة, you mentioned the state of the state or the حركة on the last letter to remind yourself that I will not be confused by this حركة into thinking that it is فتحة for نصب, or ضمة for رفع, or سكون for جزم, or كسرة for jar. Now, remember, this is something I mentioned to you, but I'm going to tell you something which I have not necessarily mentioned before. في محل إعراب. Is it sitting in a position of إعراب? It's a مبني word that we've established, but we need to consider, is it sitting in a position of إعراب or not? If it's yes, we will state what position of إعراب is it sitting. Is it في محل رفع, in a position of رفع, in a position of نصب, in a position of جزم or jar, sorry, and then جزم. Right? If it's not sitting in a position of إعراب, then we will say, yeah, لا محل لها من الإعراب. It's not. It's a مبني word that is not sitting in any position of إعراب. Right? So this is something I stated so far, but what I have not, if my memory serves me very well, I did not elaborate to you on this diagram. You remember this diagram? We said حرف. حرف is always مبني, remember? And it's also always لا محل له من الإعراب. It's مبني, and it is never sitting in a position of إعراب. Is that understood? Easy? طيب. اسم on the other side is, we have a category of مبني أسماء مبنية. طيب. The مبني اسم is always in a position of إعراب. Always in a position of إعراب. طيب. When it comes to the فعل, so basically when you have an اسم that is مبني, you cannot imagine that you will say this is of category ضمير, for example, and لا محل له من الإعراب. لا, it has to be في محل إعراب. As a rule of thumb, there is no اسم that is مبني except that it must be in a position of إعراب, meaning it must be sitting in a position of إعراب created by a previous word, but it's not showing the حركة. Right? So let me ask you this question. Can you ever see in any sentence an اسم that is مبني but لا محل له من الإعراب? Never. This will never be the case. اسم is a very prominent word within a sentence. The most elevated, the most honored word within a sentence is اسم. And therefore, you can never imagine an اسم to be in a position of no إعراب. It has to be in a position of إعراب, because you are always speaking about the اسم. Something is being stated about an اسم. When it comes to فعل, we said فعل ماضي is مبني, and مبني always لا محل له من الإعراب. فعل أمر, فعل أمر on the left side, always لا محل له من الإعراب. When we have مضارع, and مضارع is مبني, like اسم is always في محل إعراب, because it's مضارع, it resembles the اسم. Right? Is that clear? So we know within the 3 category of words, how many مبني words do we have? We have اسم that is مبني, we have فعل that is مبني, we have فعل فعل ماضي that's مبني, we have فعل أمر that's مبني, and we have every form of every حرف is of type مبني. Yeah? We said حرف is always never sitting in a position created by a previous word. لا محل له من الإعراب. So for example, if I was to do i'rab for a sentence. Let me take you for this سلمت على this حرف. What will I call it? I will say على حرف جر مبني على السكون, and then definitely لا محل له من الإعراب. Always ends with the grammatical analysis for this حرف is going to end with لا محل له من الإعراب. طيب جاء how do we do إعراب for جاء؟ فعل, this فعل ماضي, فعل ماض مبني. So the category is فعل ماضي مبني. I'm stating that it is not reflecting anything at all. مبني على, now I need to state what is it مبني upon. فتحة, because it's there, you can see it. مبني. So فعل ماض مبني على الفتح, and then we have to conclude with, is it في محل إعراب ولا لا محل له من الإعراب? So we just say لا محل له من الإعراب. Is this easy so far?
No.
لا محل له من الإعراب. So these words are new to you guys because you are non-Arabic speakers. So when you go home, if you can review this video and repeat these words, run them in your mouth. Let your tongue run with these. Say it. فعل ماض مبني على الفتح لا محل له من الإعراب. And that would be the grammatical analysis. All right. So going back to this, we were talking about the steps for grammatical analysis for a مبني word. We said the first thing we have to state is نوع الكلمة, the category it belongs to. 2, stating that it is مبني. It's not going to respond. It's not going to show it's not going to change the end of it. حركة البناء, what is the حركة at the end letter of it? في محل إعراب, if it's في محل إعراب, you have to say في محل رفع, في محل نصب, في محل جزم, في محل جر. طيب if it's لا محل له من الإعراب, if it's not sitting in a position of إعراب, what do you say? Simply لا محل له من الإعراب. Is that understood? طيب. And then finally, if it's playing a role within a sentence, then you have to say it is, what role is it playing? You state the role it plays. All right? Is that clear? So when it comes to مبني words, you state موقع الكلمة من الجملة at the end. Right? When it comes to معرب words, you state موقع الكلمة at the beginning. Right? So these are the generically speaking, these are the 5 steps for معرب words and for مبني words. Are we clear so far? Any confusion? Right. All right. So we did state that in the 10 categories of asma mabniyat, where are we? We finished al-ism al-mufrad, which is our base type, and then we moved on to al-ism al-muthanna, meaning the ism that is in the form of muthanna, the dual form. Right? Something I don't know if I mentioned to you. Did I mention to you what is the name of this alif here? Huh? لا التثنية. ألف, did I mention that? Yeah. So it's called ألف التثنية, and it's حرف. It's a حرف that is added to the singular form, which is معلم, and then you add ألف التثنية, and then remember what I said, what this noon is? This noon is نون عوض عن التنوين. عوض mean in place of the tanween that is meant to be in the ism mufrad, right? So what did we add to the ism mufrad? That's the ism mufrad, معلم. Yeah. And then what did we add? We add alifu at-tathniya. Hold on to this ism because there's another type of ism. It's called aliful ithnain. Aliful ithnain. That's a damir type of word. But alifu at-tathniya, basically it means the alif that is used in the creation of the dual in the muthanna, right? So that's the purpose of it. When we do i'rab, typically this word alif is not seen as a separate word. So the word معلمان here is a word as a whole. طيب? That's how i'rab is done for it. But I just stated to you how it was created in the previous class. So mashallah, so far everything is clear, right? Mashallah. So now we go back to where we were. We finished. This is al-ism al-mufrad. How we do i'rab for the ism al-mufrad. I will not go through that again. It's in the video. You can go through it. The examples: جاء محمد, رأيت محمدا, سلمت على محمد. Quick revision question. What is the type of tanween at the end of Muhammadun here? What's it called? Tanween with tamkeen. At-tamkeen. Say it. Tanweenu at-tamkeen. Tanween is basically the nonation, the production of the noun, the sound of noon. And at-tamkeen, to show that this ism is a fully functioning ism, or fully functioning word, in the sense that it responds to all the states of i'rab: rafi', nasb, and jar. طيب? It's not deficient in any way. اسم متمكن من الإعراب. الاسم المثنى, we covered that already. And oh yes, I called it ألف التثنية. When it comes to Muslimani, we call this one ألف التثنية. In the i'rab of it, we done also the i'rab of it in the previous class, right? MashaAllah. So let's now begin our class, our topic for today. جمع المذكر السالم. Actually, it should be السالم. السالم. Later on, inshallah, I would like you to ask yourself, why is it السالم, not السالم, at a later time, inshallah. جمع المذكر السالم. جمع المذكر السالم. So the ism that is جمع مذكر سالم. جمع, the word جمع means plural. المذكر means masculine. السالم, that which is sound, that which is intact, sound or intact. Like I said, I did not get the chance to translate this page, so as I am reading, if you could write it within your notes. جمع means plural. المذكر, that which is made into masculine. Right? The opposite of المذكر is what? المؤنث, which means that which is made into feminine. So المذكر means that which is made into feminine, masculine. السالم, that which is intact, that which is sound and intact, means unchanged. And we will see what that means in a minute, inshallah. So تعريفه, anyone remembers the word تعريف? What does it mean? Yes? Its definition. So first, i'rab always is what? تعريفات وتقسيمات وأحكام. So definitions, and then or we can say categorization, and then definitions for every category, and then for every category we'll end up concluding with what's the ruling, what do we do with it. So that's the ta'rif. So the category is called جمع المذكر السالم. That's the category. And then the ta'rif is what we have here. قال ما دل على أكثر من اثنين, that which indicates to more than two, meaning not singular and not muthanna, not mufrad and not muthanna, not singular and not dual. It indicates دل على أكثر من اثنين. It points to, it means, it refers to more than two. Right? How is this referred to? How is it created? بزيادة واو ونون, by the addition of waw and noon at the end of it. Right? By the addition of waw and noon. أو يا ونون, أو بزيادة يعني, or by the addition of ya ونون to the end of it. Addition to what? Addition to the mufrad. So you take the mufrad. In the case of al-muthanna, what did we add to the mufrad? Alif wa noon or ya wa noon. In the case of جمع المذكر السالم, we are adding at the end of the mufrad version of it, we are adding either waw and noon or ya wa noon, depending on the state of i'rab. طيب. Now it says here والواو والياء للجمع. Remember, when it comes to الاسم المثنى, that alif or that ya, what did we call them? Alif al-tathniya or ya al-tathniya. Remember? So here, this waw here and this ya here, what do we call them? Waw al-jam'i and waw wa ya or ya al-jam'a. Waw al-jam', meaning the waw that is used in the creation of jama', in the forming of a jama'. Ya is called ya al-jam' as well, because that's the ya that is used in the creation of jama'. Okay? So what we have here, Muslimun, a person, an individual that is Muslim. So what did we do? We added after the meme, we added waw. Yes? And waw, being harfu, a vowel, it has to have dhamma on the previous one, huh? So we have to have dhamma on top of the meme, because waw is a harf that is illa or harfu mad, a vowel for extension. What does it extend? The right haraka, which is dhamma. So meme has to have dhamma now. طيب. So that's waw al-jama'. And then this noon here is عوض عن التنوين. عوض عن التنوين, in place of that tanween which was here at the end of this. So what did we do? We separated the meme madmuma from the tanween. After the meme madmuma, we added waw. And then instead of the tanween, which was supposed to be just the haraka, we added it in the form of a letter. Does that make sense? So that's how you create the plural jam'u al-mudhakkar al-salim, by adding waw and noon at the end, or ya and noon. If you added waw wa noon, the waw is called wawul al-jam'. If you added ya, then this ya is called ya'ul al-jam'. Right? And I emphasize this because this waw here, you have to remember it's wawul jam', not wawul jama'a. Another term that you will study later on, which is al-damir. Wawul jama'a is damir, is a pronoun. Right? But you will cover later. So it's not wawul jama'a, it's wawul jam'. Is that clear? And I remind you to while you are in the study, just run the word under your breath. Say it. Don't be completely silent. Huh? Wa muslimuna, we have waw. This waw is called wawul jama'. Excellent. So what do we notice here? The singular form. This is a very important point. The singular word, has it changed in form when we created this type of jama'? It didn't change. So it means this form or this pattern remains intact, remains sound, remains unchanged. Hence the ism as-salimu. Hence we call it jam'u al-mudhakkar as-salimu. As-salimu, that which is intact, that which is unchanged. And later on you will see we have al-jam'u al-mukassar. I'm just writing it for jam'u al-mukassar. Al-jam'u al-mukassar, the broken plural, which is one category that we will study from the 10. But that will come later on. So now we are studying as-salimu, and the word as-salimu is the opposite of al-mukassar. Jam'u al-mukassar. As-salimu means that which did not change. It didn't change, meaning we had the pattern of the singular that remained intact, unchanged when we created the plural form. We simply added waw and noon or ya and noon. What was this called? Jam'ul mudhakkar salim. So I'm going to delete this word because it's not part of this discussion. I just wanted you to see that al-mukassar is the opposite of السالم. المكسر means the broken plural. طيب. Very good. So إعرابه, how do we do the إعراب of it? إعرابه, what does it read there? We said يرفع, يعني في حالة الرفع يرفع بماذا؟ بالواو. وينصب ويجر بالياء. So now this category of isms is an ism. The إعراب of it is with حروف or حركات. حروف. Very good. So it's not حركات. What حروف does it take? For رفع we have واو. For نصب and jar we have ياء. Is that clear? Let's take an example. جاء, and we're going to stick to still جاء ورأيت وسلمت على. جاء المسلمون ورأيت المسلمين وسلمت على المسلمين. Do you see what's happening there? First and foremost, did the word change in this template? It did change. So it did change. So we have one change because it began by al-Muslimuna and then it changed into al-Muslimina and then it remained al-Muslimina in the case of the third sentence. So because we have seen some form of change, what do we call this word? What do we call this type of word? Mu'rab. Yes, sir? Mu'rab. So it's a mu'rab form, meaning a word that responds, at least in one of the cases. That's very good. So now, how did it show how did it reflect the i'rab, the state of i'rab? In the first one, it reflected the state of i'rab with a waw. In the second, this is the state of i'rab of rafi', صح?
No.
Are you clear? Are you clear why this word here is in a state of rafi'? Are you all clear about this one? It's very important, huh? Yeah. طيب. Because I remind you that جاء is a fi'l and it creates in front of it a position of rafi', محل رفع, for one ism to sit on it, and that ism will be the fa'il. Right? And it can potentially create also another position of nasb for maf'ul bihi, etc., etc. But at least we will have fa'il. So that this ism here sat in that position, right? And therefore it's marfu' because it's a mabni word, it's a mu'rab word, right? Here we have ra'aytu, it's a fi'l, ra'a, we have up to here is a fi'l. It creates in front of it two positions, one position of rafi', and this dhamir, this pronoun, sat on it. طيب. And then we have a position of nasib, and this ism here sat on it. طيب. So therefore, this is a position of nasib. So this word, when in a position of rafi', nasib, how did it reflect the position of rafi'? With yeah, with the yeah. In the third sentence, سلمت على المسلمين. طيب. على is حرف جر. على is حرف جر. And المسلمين is اسم مجرور. اسم مجرور, صح? So it's in a state of jar. How is it showing the state of jar? With ya. Right? So now we can see that this word al-muslimuna is a word that is mu'rab to begin with, and it shows the state of rafi' by waw, and it shows the state of nasib and jar with ya. Is that clear? Right. Now we're going to do i'rab. So in the first sentence, we have two words. Now that you're familiar with this, I will do i'rab for both words. And listen attentively. Obviously, I gave you another i'rab here, al-muallimuna. You can see that al-muallimun means the plural of muallim. Yeah, muallim, muallimuna, al-muallimina, al-muallimina. Let's do al-muslimuna. جاء المسلمون. So when I say جاء المسلمون, so جاء is the fi'l, صح? مبني or معرب? مبني. So how do we start? فعل ماض. That's how it's done. فعل ماض. That's the category. طيب مبني. مبني. So فعل ماض مبني. Now مبني what's the خلاص حركة على الفتح. So we say على الفتحة أو الفتح. مبني على الفتحة. You can say على الفتح. الفتحة. طيب مبني على الفتحة. Right? So it has فتحة there. What's left for us? Is it في محلي or not في محلي? So what's the rule when it comes to فعل الماضي? Is always لا محل له. لا طيب ما شاء الله. يعني بشيء لا محل له من الإعراب. لا محل له من الإعراب. So we've never done this before, صح? But now that I introduced you the idea of لا محل له من الإعراب, now you're ready to do فعل إعراب for فعل ماضي. فعل ماضي we will study it later fully, but فعل ماضي the default position that it is مبني على الفتح. مبني على الفتح. Are there alternative حركة for بناء? Yes. But when we study the إعراب of فعل ماضي, we will cover it. But for now, our basic sentence consists of جاء. So we are just going to stick to جاء. جاء is a فعل ماضي that's مبني upon فتحة. So we say فعل ماض, step number 1. Step number 2, مبني على الفتحة لا محل له من الإعراب. طيب. If it was في محل إعراب, we will say في محل كذا. في محل كذا. طيب. And at the end there, we should be stating also the موقع الكلمة, موقعه في الجملة. The role it plays within a sentence. But this has become redundant now, صح? Because right at the beginning, we said it's of category فعل ماض. صح? So we don't need to say it here الموقع. The fifth component of the Arab, صح? Because we already said it's called what? It's part of the name of the category, فعل ماضي. So it has to be فعل. Is that clear? طيب, so that's جاء. Now when it comes to المسلمون, that's our word, المسلمون. Now who can have a go at doing إعراب for this? المسلمون. Huh? So فاعل, that's the role of a sentence. The role it plays within a sentence. فاعل. And why did we start with it? Because it's a معرب word. So we begin by the role of the word within a sentence. So we had فعل. Now the role this word is playing is فاعل. Like فاعل. Now what's next? مرفوع. Very good. Because it's sitting in a position of رفع created by the فاعل, by the فعل. صح? مرفوع. فاعل مرفوع. What's next? مرفوع. No. مرفوع. لا بالفعل. You're right. بالفعل. So, and we said this is a redundant word that we're going to stop using it soon. بالفعل. But for just clarity purposes, I'm keeping it for now. Right? We say it's redundant because the word فاعل already says that the فعل is what gave it that role. صح? طيب, مرفوع بالفعل. And then what's next? وعلامة علامة رفعه. Now what's علامة رفعه? الواو. Very good. So we say علامة رفعه. وعلامة رفعه الواو. Now let's pay attention to this. And واو means and. wa. علامة, the sign of رفعه, of it being in a state of إعراب. طيب. الواو is the واو. Now when we deviate from the default sign of رفع, which is ضمة, we have to state why. So the default sign for رفع is ضمة. The default sign for نصب is فتحة. The default sign for jar is كسرة. The default sign for جزم is سكون. Okay? So when you are stating the default sign for any state of إعراب, you don't have to explain yourself. Okay? When we had فاعل مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة. Did we have to state why is ضمة? Because that's the default, right? When you go away from the default to something alternative to the default, then you have to explain why have you moved away from the default. Why is it not ضمة? طيب. So here وعلامة رفعه الضمة، وعلامة رفعه والواو. The way this is expressed, we say نيابة نيابة نيابة. Sorry. Another alternative word عوضا. They mean exactly the same thing. عوضا. طيب. So we say either نيابة or عوضا عن الضمة. So what are we saying stating here? عن الضمة. So we said the sign of it being in a state of رفع is the واو. Okay. And then نيابة, or we can use the word عوضا, one of the two. نيابة, which means in substitute of, instead of. طيب. نيابة or عوضا عن الضمة, instead of the ضمة. طيب. Now we have to state why is that the case. Why did you move away from the default? So you say لأنه Safian, did you say something? Yes. لأنه جمع مذكر سالم. جمع مذكر سالم. Is that clear? So that's it. You've done your Arab. Now I want you to just read it, go through this Arab that I just wrote, and look into it and tell me if there's anything there that is not clear to you. I'll be happy to go over it again. And that's for both, for the جاء and for المسلمون. It's clear? Yeah. And you notice here in the Arab of المسلمون, we did not highlight anything about the waw. Okay? Because now we consider it as part of the word. Okay? But something here, you will see this later on. The noon here is in place of what? The tanween. Right? In place of the tanween. I will mention something here now. If you capture it, good. If you don't, it's not relevant to this part of the class. If you have this noon or this tanween, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there. Right? Sometimes, for example, if we have let's take this sentence. جاء معلم. جاء معلم. You see the sentence here? That's a typical sentence for you, sir. What do we notice? We جاء, you learn the Arab of that one. معلم, you learn the Arab of that one. We say فاعل مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة على آخره. And then we can say والتنوين للتمكين. That tanween is for tamkeen, right? But let's say, for example, I'm going to move this down to the following page. Let's say we are dealing with جاء معلم. The first one, it means what? A teacher came, sir. Why? Because this is indefinite word, sir. Undefined word. We don't know which teacher. Some teacher came, sir. And that's why we have tanween there. So جاء. لكن معلم الصف or معلم النحو. Right? Now it's not long. We no longer معلم النحو. Right? جاء معلم النحو. So now we have a position of what do we call this structure here? Okay. مضاف and مضاف إليه, صح? Where the translation is the teacher of نحو. So before a teacher came. Now جاء معلم teacher of Nahu. The teacher of Nahu. Okay? So now, because we have this idafa, we are assigning muallim to the word Nahu, means we are specifying muallim that is not a generic muallim, it's a specific muallim of Nahu. Muallimun Nahu. Huh? Because now we're no longer speaking about a word that is in absolute form of indefiniteness, nakira. That tanween has to be removed. That tanween has to be removed. Have you noticed? So in the first example, we said جاء معلم. Second example, we said جاء معلم النحو. You see what happened to the tanween there? Very good. Now let's take the same word and we'll say جاء معلمان. جاء معلمان. Now this sentence, what does it mean?
Teachers.
Two teachers came. Two teachers came. Is it defined teachers or indefinite type of teachers? Or undefined type? Huh? Some teachers, two teachers came. Huh? Some two teachers came. If we want to specify that جاء, the two teachers of Nahu came. So we will say معلما النحو. I wanted to see what happened. جاء معلما النحو. So again, we have the same sentence of إضافة here. Okay? So the word moved away from being معلماني into معلما. What got removed? The noon. Because the noon was instead of the tanween, right? So in the position of when we have إضافة, we have one word assigned to another, that tanween got removed, and therefore whatever stands in its place, which is the noon, has to also be removed. Right? So now جاء معلما النحو rather than معلماني النحو. Is this making sense? طيب, by the same token, we'll say جاء معلمون. What does this sentence mean? جاء معلمون. Yeah, some teachers came. Unspecified. We don't know what teachers, where do they teach, where, just teachers. Okay? Now, if we want to move on, specify, we say جاء. How do we write this one? We want to, the teachers of Nahu came. معلمو النحو. You see what happened there? Why? النحو. Well, the noon got removed. So that noon remains there when there is no idafa. When you're not assigning one word to another, one ism to another. But when you have this idafa structure, where one indefinite word is assigned to another word to specify it a little bit, then that noon or that tanween has to be removed. Is that making sense? So جاء معلمو النحو. So the noon has to go. Just like how the tanween had to go here, and in the first example. Likewise, the noon, which is instead of that tanween, has to also go when we have idafa, and the noon also in Jam' al-Mudakkar Salim has to be removed. Okay. This we will repeat again, but I think it's worth knowing at this point because it will help us in the Arab. So what is this, one more time, what is this structure called? The structure of mudaf and mudaf ilayh, the tarkib al-idafa. Right? So two words, tarkib al-idafa, what does it consist of? It consists of two words. The first is always indefinite. And the second, what does it do? It specifies that indefiniteness. It narrows it down a little bit, or it narrows it down completely by specifying it exactly. Okay? So, and the second sentence, the second word in this structure of mudaf and mudaf ilayhi is always majroor. And the first word will be dependent on the sentence, what role is playing in the sentence. Is that making sense? When we have this structure, the structure of mudaf and mudaf ilayhi, a structure of mudaf and mudaf ilayhi are two isms, two words of type ism. The first one is always indefinite. It's never definite word. It never begins with al, for example. The second one may be definite, may be indefinite. The second one, what does it do? It either narrows down the ambiguity of the first word. You know, like when you say جاء معلم, a teacher came. Could be any teacher, could be teacher of any topic, could be teacher of any class. Right? If I say جاء معلم, oops, get this. The second sentence, نحو. If I said جاء معلم نحو, معلم نحو. Now look, the first word is mudaf. The first word is, as expected, is a nakira word. The second one of this structure is also a nakira word. Has it completely defined the first one? No, it narrowed it down a little bit. Right? So we're saying معلم نحو, a teacher of nahw came. Could be anyone, could be my teacher, could be our teacher, the class of another teacher, it could be anything. We have not narrowed it down. But if we said معلم النحو, right? The nahw that you and I, we know what we're talking about. So that nahw, our nahw class came, the teacher of our nahw class. So now the ambiguity of the indefinite word, which could have been anything, any teacher, was narrowed down, or was it specified? It was completely specified, because the second ism happens to be ma'rifah. Right? Does that make sense? So this structure of mudaf and mudaf ilayhi, you will come across this a lot in the Arabic language. That's why I did not want to leave this one for a later time. So while we're here, let's deal with it. So muallim, so mudaf and mudaf ilayhi. This structure of mudaf and, which is the first word, the second one, mudaf ilayhi. Right? It's called at-tarkib al-idafi. You have a compound of words that consist of two words. One is assigned to another. Right? So always the first one will be what? Nakira, will be indefinite, always. The second one may be also indefinite, in which case it only narrows it down. We will say muallimu nahwin, meaning it's not a teacher of science, not a teacher of maths, but we don't know to what school it belongs, to what class it belongs. Is our teacher. We have not completely defined it or completely specified it, because the second word happened to be also a nakira. If the second word is ma'rifah, then we have completely defined that first word that is indefinite. Right? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So this will come a lot. So far as i'rab is concerned, so we have two words. The first word is dependent on the role it plays in the sentence. It could be anything really. Could be fa'il, could be mubtada, could be whatever. Right? So we look at what role it plays and we give it that i'rab. Right? The second one is always mudaf ilayhi and it's always majroor. It's always majroor. And now let me remind you of something I said about the state of a word that is majroor. Majroor means literally dragged. Right? Meaning, and you can think of it as a word that is under the arm of the previous one. Under the arm of the previous word. Which we could also say that it is unseen for the greater sentence. Unseen, it doesn't play a role in the greater sentence. It's under the arm of the previous word. So now, the word an-nahu is under the arm of the word muallimun. So far as this verbal sentence, right? So ja'a now here, if we ask ja'a, what sort of isms belong to that sentence? How many isms belong to that جملة فعلية? Just one, which is معلم. What about this one? Is it playing any role? النحو, is it playing any role in جاء? In the?
No.
No. Why? Because it's under the arm of the word معلم. So it's not playing a role. It's just dragged under the arm of معلم. Does that make sense?
No.
So far as roles of a sentence, so roles of a word within a sentence, when we point at a word and we say it's majroor, in other words, we're saying that it's not playing a role in the sentence it belongs to. It's under the arm of the previous word. That's why it's dragged with it. And that's why it has to be followed. You can never have two majroor words that is separated from the amil of it. It's always, they have to be next to each other because it's dragged, it's under the arm of it. And the most important element here is it's not playing any role in the greater sentence, in the parent sentence, in the sentence itself. Does that make sense? So that's why it's called what? Majroor. Is that clear? So now we've done i'rab for what? Al-Muslimuna here. So this noon, we could say here at the end of this i'rab here, وَالنُّونُ عِوَضٌ عَنِ التَّنْوِينِ. طيب والنون عوض عن التنوين. Here we're saying this noon. So I'm going to come back to the sentence. Yeah. Now here, what did we say here? والنون عوض عن التنوين. طيب. Noon, just like when we spoke about the first noon in جاء محمد, what did we say about that noon? والنون, we said للتمكين. It shows that this ism is a fully functioning ism. Right? It responds very well to i'rab. So now this noon that we have at the end, المسلمون is عوض عن التنوين as well. The same thing we could have said as well about the i'rab of المثنى. إنما جاء مسلمان, جاء مسلمان أو مسلمين. Look, when it comes to جاء مسلمان, this is مثنى. Going back to the مثنى, we call it فاعل مرفوع بالفعل وعلامة رفعه الألف نيابة عن الضمة لأنه مثنى. Right? Now we could add, and actually we should say والنون عوض عن التنوين. Why do we have to add this? Because it's pronounced, right? It's pronounced والنون عوض عن التنوين. So this noon, we're saying this noon at the end of the muthanna is noon that is instead of the tanween in muslimun. Yeah, that is instead of it. So since it's pronounced, remember we said nahwu is about what? Doing i'rab for everything that you utter, right? So since we are saying muslimani, that ni, you have to say something about it. So let me ask you a question. Since we said we're gonna do i'rab for every pronounced word. So we did the i'rab for noon. Why are we not doing the i'rab for the alif? Because it's part of the body of the word and it never separates from it. Remember we said if we were talking about idafa, if it becomes mudaf ilayhi, what gets separated? The noon. Yeah, but will the alif ever be severed? So khalas, it's treated as part of the word itself. So we don't need to say anything about it. We done the i'rab of the word muslimani, right? So, but the noon, because sometimes it gets separated, we can treat it as something distinct from the word itself. Is that point clear? So Muhammadun, we said there are two words, Muhammad, do, and then the noon, that noon, the tanween, is another word, right? Why do you consider it as another word? Because sometimes it can be removed from it. Yeah. Very good. So now going back to our درس for today, جمع المذكر السالم in the إعراب of it. Now have a look at this one more time. المسلمون, we said فاعل مرفوع, طيب, بالفعل وعلامة رفعه الواو. The sign that indicates it being in a state of رفع is the واو. نيابة, what does the word نيابة mean? In place of, instead of, huh? In place of another alternative word, عوضا. And then you say عن الضمة, instead of the ضمة. Why do we have واو instead of ضمة? You have to state the reason here. Okay? Usually when you are stating a reason, you don't put a comma. See this comma here? In the punctuation you put semicolon. Okay? لأنه جمع مذكر سالم, because it is جمع مذكر سالم. طيب. What about the noon? We say والنون عوض عن التنوين. Is that clear? So now we've dealt with the first example of the template, which is جاء المسلمون. Is that clear? I remind you again, and emphasize this, that when you go home, you have to run these words in your tongue. You have to say فعل مضارع مرفوع. At some point now, I'm not asking any of you to do إعراب, but soon I will be asking you to do إعراب. Huh? So do this at home, inshallah. Now رأيت المسلمين. We'll do إعراب for رأيت المسلمين. Now let's take رأيت. These are our templates. We can't afford to not do the إعراب of it. Now رأيت here, how many words do you see in the word رأيت? How many words from a نحو point of view? Yeah. So from an imla point of view, from a dictation point of view, from just pure writing point of view, this is just one word, رأيت, because there's no gap between them. صح? But from a نحو point of view, we have two words. The فعل رأي, the origin of which is رأى, and then we have the ta. We have the ta, which is the فاعل. So let's learn how to do the Arab of this. So we're going to take رأي. We take it to its original form, because when you separate it from the ta, the only reason why it's رأي is because the ta is attached to it. If you want to do Arab for it separately, you take it to the original form, which is رأى. So we're going to say رأى. That's the word. فعل ماض. فعل ماض. فعل ماض. Anyone has any problem with this? Huh? So we've taken the first word that we say. This word is فعل ماض. That's the Arab of it. Clear, صح? No confusion here. فعل ماض. What else do we say? مبني. مبني. What else? We need to say the حركة at the end of it. مبني على ماذا؟ طيب فعل ماضي when it's typical in its default position is مبني على الفتح. In this case is مبني على الضم. طيب عفوا على السكون. مبني على السكون for reasons that you will study, you will learn later on. But you can tell that, look, رأي, you can tell it's مبني على السكون. Why is it مبني على السكون? That's what we will study this in detail when we study the إعراب of فعل ماضي. But I just want you to be familiar with our template sentences. What's going on in them? على السكون. طيب فعل ماضي مبني على السكون. طيب now after you say على السكون, what do we need to say? It's مبني and it's على السكون. Is it in a position of إعراب or not a position of إعراب? It's always فعل ماضي is never in a position of إعراب. So we say لا محل له من الإعراب. فعل مضارع like فعل ماضي sorry like what له من الإعراب. Your homework is to memorize this شرف المكسين. طيب لا محل له من الإعراب. It's not sitting in a position created by a previous word before it. It's not sitting. طيب. And we said فعل ماضي is always not sitting in a position for الإعراب. Like حرف, always never sitting in a position for الإعراب. Like فعل أمر, never sitting in a position for الإعراب. So that's it. We finished رأيت. Now رأيت being a فعل, what does it need? It needs فاعل. It created in front of it a position of what? Of رفع. Now who's sitting on that? Huh? التاء. So we say التاء. With التاء. So that's our second word. Okay? So we can make it in green here because we put the first one in green. But otherwise it's this word here. So التاء, even though it's one letter, it's actually it's a word. It's that's not حرف, that's ضمير. طيب. So we say ضمير and then مبني على ماذا؟ Who can tell us? مبني على الضمة. Why? It's obvious. It's there. You don't need to memorize anything. It says two. صح؟ رأيت. صح؟ So that tells you something. This is مبني على الضم. ضمير مبني على الضم. Is it في محلي or not في محلي? Yeah. This ضمير is of one of the categories of isms. صح? And remember I said to you, you can never have an ism that is not in a position of Arab. Yeah. So this has to be, you can never imagine yourself pointing at a word that is of type ism and then saying at the end of it, مبني لا محل له من الإعراب. Never. Okay? So this is مبني على الضمة في محل, sitting in a position of something. في محل what? رفع. In a position of رفع. طيب. في محل رفع. طيب. And between us, we know that this is a position of رفع created by the فعل. It's a position of رفع created by the فعل. And then who sat on it? Rather than having a اسم معرب, we are stuck with الضمير. So it's مبني على something, and then we'll say it is sitting in a position of في محل رفع. Now what role is it playing? فاعل. So فاعل. طيب. So it's ضمير مبني في محل رفع أو مبني على الضمة في محل رفع فاعل. Does that make sense? It has. So that's رأيت. Now we get to our word المسلمون. عفوا المسلمين. Why is it المسلمين? Why is it not المسلمون? Who can tell me? Why is it? Sorry? Yeah, because the جملة فعلية has only one position for رفع and it's already taken. Who took it? The ضمير, the pronoun تا. So now we no longer have any more positions of رفع. It has to be position of نصب. Sorry, نصب, yes. نصب. So here المسلمين, what do we say about its إعراب? Who can do the إعراب for this one? We will say, and I remind you now that we are doing إعراب, which means grammatical analysis. We are hoping that we're going to do a lot of this, and in so doing, we are training our brain so that it at some point will get to a point where it will do it it will do it in a split second. So you do إعراب as you speak. This will happen, and they will come when you, but gradually these are the baby steps. You have to do it actively like this. Think about it and spend some time. The speed in which you do the i'rab will keep on shrinking until it becomes a split second, right? So al-Muslimina, what do we say about al-Muslimina? So because it's a mu'arab word, right? So we begin by the role it plays in the sentence. Does that make sense? Sami, you're clear with this? Second to that, what do we say? منصوبا. Very good, منصوبا. Now a question for Sufyan. منصوبا. مفعول به is always منصوبا. طيب why do we have to state منصوبا since it's always مفعول به. If مفعول به is always منصوب, why do we say منصوبا? Give him a chance. Something we stated before, صح؟
لا
You want to call a friend?
يقول ايه لا اخاف يقول ايه اه يقول فريند
Call a brother. Yes, Bassam. Even though it's obvious, but we're stating the obvious because the idea here is to train our brain. Even though it's obvious, but since we are in the process of training our brain, we're going to say even obvious things. طيب? Because the idea is I want to recognize مفعول به is always
So
مسؤول.
you always mention it.
You always mention it. Right? Obviously, later on, you can become a native Arabic speaker. You remember Arabs in the time of Prophet ﷺ, they never had nahu. They spoke spontaneously and they did the right thing always. Right? So when they said رأيت المسلمين, they never said رأيت المسلمون. They spoke naturally. Right? But since we are not Arabs, we're not Arabs of that time, so we need to train ourselves to think like this. How do we do this? By doing this grammatical analysis. So is that clear? Yeah. So مفعول به, the role of that word within a sentence. Second to that, we say the state of Arab, right, which is منصوب. After that, what do we say? Huh? But yeah, what's the عامل? What caused the thing? So we said بالفعل. Right? Again, I'm going to say this is something بالفعل. You will never see anyone saying this, but I'm saying it in this kind of classes to show you that this is the concept of عامل and معمول. Always, if there's something منصوب, there must be a عامل. If something مرفوع, there must be a عامل. طيب? And when you become familiar with this concept, we'll stop saying بالفعل. فعل مفعول به منصوب بالفعل. And then we say what? وعلامة رفعه وعلامة نصبه, صح؟ نصبه. The علامة of it being in a state of نصب is what? نصبه. Huh? What? الياء. Very good. That's الياء. الياء. طيب. What's the word? نيابة. نيابة, صح؟ نيابة. نيابة أو عوضا. You say use one word or the other. أي عوضا عن ماذا? Instead of. So عن here is the off part. Instead of. عن what? الفتحة. So the typical علامة for نصب فتحة. The typical علامة of نصب is فتحة. So when you deviate from فتحة, you have to explain why have we gone away from فتحة. طيب. عن الفتحة. What do you say after that? The reason, صح? So do we end with a comma or a semicolon? Semicolon. طيب. عن الفتحة لأنه جمع مذكر سالم. مذكر. We mentioned the category. مذكر سالم. لأنه جمع مذكر سالم. Exactly. So now you have the word رأيت. The Arab of رأيت, we've done it now. Right? This is the first time we're doing رأيت before. We've never done it before, so it's a new thing to you. المسلمين is the Arab of the جمع مذكر سالم when it's in a state of نصب. Then what do you say? والنون. What do you say about the noon? والنون. What about the noon? النون عوض. النون مبتدا خبر أحمد. والنون عوض عن التنوين. طيب. So this noon is in place عوض عن التنوين. وش تنوين؟ We could complete the sentence في المفرد. مفرد. The tanween that is in the mufrad, when we created جمع المذكر السالم, now this is instead of it. This noon is instead of it. Yeah. Let me say something here. You know, there are books that are written in i'rab al-Quran, for example. Right? When you read these books, would you find all these details listed there? Huh? No, no. You won't find all this detail. Probably they will tell you al-Muslimina maf'ulun bihi. Maf'ulun bihi. That's it. Right? Why is that? Because those books are not designed for education, for learning, to learn Nahu. But books that are designed for learning Nahu, they will cram the i'rab with as many details as possible, right? For you to be able to remind yourself of all the rules that you've covered so far by going through i'rab. So all the categories we go through, مبنيات and معربات, اسم فعل and حرف, جملة فعلية, جملة اسمية. You are reviewing all of this in every sentence you do the i'rab for. Okay? So because we are in the process of education, we go in the depth of the details. Okay? Books that are not written for the purpose of education or teaching Nahu, like books that are written solely for tafsir of Quran, they will probably find here رأيت المسلمين, they will tell you فعل وفاعل ومفعول به. خلاص. They will tell you فعل فاعل مفعول به. End of story. طيب. So here, look at the sentence now. Anyone got any questions about this sentence, since we've never encountered this before? No. Yeah? Just memorize it, inshallah. And this updated document, I will have it linked in the description box, inshallah, for this class, inshallah. Now, the final sentence we have, which is سلمت على المسلمين. So, we will take سلمت على المسلمين. I will do the Arab first, huh? سلمت. And again, سلمت consists of how many words? Sorry. Very good. Now you're getting the hang of it. So سلم. سلم. That's the actual word. سلم. Right? But because to was added to it, the end of it has to change into sakin. Right? But the actual فعل ماضي was like this سلم. The attachment of to at the end of it influenced the end حركة of it. So instead of سلم, say سلم to. And like this we will study when we cover the full i'rab of فعل ماضي, right? Which is something simple, nothing great. So we have here the فعل ماضي, which is سلم, and then we have the فاعل, which is the to, right? When it comes to the سلم, سلم, what do we say about it? Who can do the i'rab of this one? يلا, tell me the i'rab. فعل ماضي. فعل ماضي. بسام, you go ahead. فعل ماضي. What else? مبني. 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 كم سمعت فيها؟ لا, before that. سفيان. الحركة مبني على ماذا؟ على لا. على السكون. Yeah. على السكون. على السكون. You all know why السكون? Because this first word ends here, right? That's why we took it aside. We said سلم. فعل ماض مبني على السكون. How do we figure out? It's because it's there. سلم. طيب. على السكون. Later on, we will have to say, why is it sukun? Why is not the default fatha? Remember, every time we have the default, we don't have to explain. When we go away from the default, we'll have to explain. But since we haven't covered that, we'll stick to a sukun now. We're not going to explain why. طيب على السكوني. and then what was left for us؟ لا محل له لا محل له من الإعراب. ها؟ له. Is that clear? Now it's done. Okay. Now what's left for us now? This is سلمة. Now we need to take what? التاء. Who can do the Arabic for the التاء for us? ضمير. ضمير. لا you don't say مرفوعا. ضمير is a مبني word. The word مرفوع, منصوب, مجرور, مجزوم is exclusive to معرب words. When it comes to مبني words is في محل رفع, في محل نصب, في محل جر, في محل جزم, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So since you are saying it's ضمير is مبني word, صح? Remember the categories? I'll show you. See, الضمير here is the first in the subcategories of مبني isms. Yeah? So it's definitely what? It's مبني word. So ضمير مبني على لا على الحركة. وش الحركة؟
على الضم.
على الضمة. مبني على الضمة صح؟
نعم.
And then you're left with في محل or لا محل؟ في محل. Yeah. Because it's اسم. اسم is always في محل. في محل رفع. And then finally the role it plays فاعل. طيب. So basically instead of typing this one, I'm just gonna copy this one exactly. Is that clear? ضمير مبني على الضمة because to على الضمة and it's definitely في محل رفع because it's an اسم. What role is it playing? فاعل. Yeah. Now we have two more words and then we'll stop إن شاء الله. على we covered this already صح؟ على what's the إعراب of على؟ حرف جر. Very good. مبني. حرف جر مبني. When we say مبني, always after the word مبني we have to say what? على ماذا? مبني upon what حركة? So مبني على ماذا? السكون. So this is here. This here, we'll be thinking this is like ألف. Remember ألف, واو and ياء are vowels. So they are like a سكون. They are treated like a سكون. So when you see ألف or واو or ياء acting like vowels, you will say على السكون. So على السكون. مبني على السكون. السكون. بارك الله فيك. Why is it لا محل له من الإعراب؟ Because it's حرف and حرف is always لا محل له من الإعراب. It can never sit in a position of إعراب صح؟ So is this إعراب of على clear to you guys? حرف جر. It's a حرف that causes جر. It's a حرف that causes جر. This is what we mean by حرف جر. طيب, and remember we said حرف جر is one of the signs of اسم. So therefore definitely it has to be followed with an اسم. طيب, but this is to come. حرف جر مبني. All حروف are مبني على السكون, and we can tell because it has سكون at the end. صح؟ لا محل له من الإعراب. Every حرف is لا محل له من الإعراب. طيب. Now after that we have what word? سلمت على المسلمين صح؟ على المسلمين. Now this word, who can do the Arab of this one? First of all, what state of Arab is the word al-Muslimina in? Is it رفع, نصب, jar, or jazm? Jar. How do you know jar? Because we have حرف جر just before it. We just called it حرف جر. Now let me remind you, what did we call the meaning of an ism that is majroor? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Dragged. Or another word I want you to think about is under the arm of, under the wing of. And what we mean by that, meaning it is not seen by the greater sentence. It's not seen by the greater sentence. What greater sentence are we speaking about? سلمت, the جملة فعلية. Okay? This فعل creates positions of رفع and نصب, صح? For either the فاعل and the مفعولات, the other مفعولات that will come after it. All of them are منصوبات. So will the فعل create حرف position of جر? No, never. اسم الفعل only creates a position of رفع for the فاعل, and then after that, if anything, it will have positions of نصب. So why do we have حرف position of جر? Because it's under the wing of the حرف على. Now, that's good. The حرف على, remember what we said, حروف, these are called حروف معنى. They point to a meaning not in themselves, but rather in another word. They point to a meaning in another word. Okay, so سلمت, I سلمت, I gave salam. Is that full sentence? Yes, it is. Does it convey a full meaning? Yes, I greeted. طيب, I greeted. So the sentence stands. سلمت فعل وفاعل. A verb, سلم, and then to the فاعل. And then we have على المسلمين. What does it do? It just adds specificity. It specifies something that was otherwise broad. So I greeted. Who did I greet? I could have greeted a Muslim, a non-Muslim, a girl, a boy, a woman, a man, a teacher, a student. It's not specified, صح? So when you have jar wa majroor, I just want to understand this one. What do you mean by على being a harf that indicates to a meaning for another word rather than for itself? What we mean by this one, it specifies this greeting salam. Before it was broad. If we didn't have al-Muslimina, it just I greeted, I gave salam, right? Without specifying, could be anyone. But then I gave it a little bit of specificity by saying that the salam I gave was to the Muslims. Does that make sense? So now the great sentence, the verbal sentence, can it see ala? Yes, it can see ala. What does it do? It specifies salam. The fi'l salam, which is greeted, it specifies a little bit. Right? Before it was broad, I greeted to anyone, but now ala, it specifies that salam. Right? So this is what we mean by harf indicates to a meaning in other than itself. يدل على معنى في غيره. Remember when we defined what harf is? We said harf is a word that indicates to a meaning in other than itself. And we also said that it has no connotation of time. Whereas ism, a word that indicates to a meaning in and of itself, and fi'l, a word that indicates to a meaning in and of itself. Okay? So here, ala is indicating to a meaning that specifies the salam, the greeting that was stated in salamtu. Okay? What about muslimina? What does muslimina do to salamtu? In terms of meaning, it helps the specificity, right? But in terms of nahu, it doesn't do anything to salamtu. It doesn't help salamtu in any way. Salamtu can only see what? Ala. And what is muslimina doing there? Is dragged with ala. Is majroor with ala. Do you understand the concept of majroor now? طيب. So now let's do the Arab of this one, and then we end the lesson. What do we say about this one? Ismun majroorun. Yeah. So why no role was stated here? مجرور. المسلمين here is اسم that's معرب, صح? And we said when you deal with a word that is معرب, you begin with what? The role it plays within a sentence, صح? But this اسم here is not seen by the greater sentence. It's under the wing of على. So it has no role to play within the great sentence. So what do we say? We can't say فاعل, مفعول به, مبتدأ, خبر. We can't say that, صح? So we just call it اسم, an ism that is dragged. Make sense? اسم مجرور بعلى Does it make sense? So we separate them a little bit. بعلى means, or let's say بحرف الجر. بحرف الجر. You could say بحرف الجر أو بعلى. طيب. بحرف الجر. جر على. اسم, an اسم that is مجرور, dragged. What is the عامل of this state of إعراب? حرف الجر على. Yeah. Now what's left for us? علامة جره. وعلامة جره, say, جره, the علامة that indicates علامة جره, the علامة that indicates it being in a state of jar is what? الياء. What do we say after that? الياء نيابة, يعني instead of, نيابة, يعني instead of, عن what? الكسرة, because the kasra is the default one, صح? So when we move away from the default, we have to explain ourselves, huh? كسرة. We have to explain why did we move away from the default علامة, the default indicator of that state of إعراب, which is jar. طيب. Why we moved away from وعلامة جر الكسرة? Why is that? Semicolon. لأنه, because it's what? لأنه جمع مذكر سالم. Is that clear? مذكر سالم. طيب. Is that clear? Anything here that is confusing? If it's super clear, mashallah, then the only thing that's left for you is to practice, to run this in your tongue, to say it a few more times, right? And hopefully one class or two or three from now, you will be all familiar with this. This is the Arab of our template, the three sentences, the three template sentences. طيب, anything clear about إعراب الجمع المذكر السالم? Anything clear, anything confusing about the Arab of this category or subcategory of اسم مبني? Okay. بارك الله فيكم in that case, إن شاء الله. Okay, جزاكم الله خير. We'll stop here. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك.